This video is going to go over a ton of exclusive gameplay details on campaign, multiplayer, and zombies, as last week I went to Treyarch ahead of the reveal of Black Ops 7 to see campaign, play multiplayer, and play zombies. By now, you might have seen the Black Ops 7 reveal, but there is so much more I'm going to share. And this video is a long one, so let's just dive straight into it. But I'd love to know your thoughts about Black Ops 7 in the comments as we dive into it. And if you do find this video useful, then let the algorithm gods know by clicking the like button, as it really helps. But let's dive straight in with everything Treyarch showed us for Black Ops 7, starting with campaign. They began by saying that Black Ops 7 was a game that was greenlit, concepted, and developed alongside Black Ops 6, and they always had a unique vision for this title. The year is 2035, and this is really important for Treyarch because it's not just a new setting, but a direct continuation after Black Ops 2's 2025. This is going to be a mind-bending narrative where some locations in the campaign will be real and both mixed of this sort of hallucination-bending reality. The campaign will feature unique locations from the Mediterranean to the coast of Avalon to neon-soaked Tokyo and even Mason's fractured psyche. One of the biggest standout features of the Black Ops 7 campaign this year is you can play it entirely in solo or up to 4-player cooperative. Regardless if you play as a solo player or play an up to 4-player, no matter what, you will get all the best moments, best character moments, all the gameplay, but you'll also be able to experience it as a social experience. And for the first time ever, there will be global progression within campaign where you'll be able to earn XP and weapon XP, just like you would in multiplayer, Warzone, and zombies, but I'll get into that in a little moment. So narratively, we are set in the year 2035, a decade after the events of Black Ops 2. Raul Menendez, who fought dead, is back, vowing to imminently burn the world down. To combat this threat, a powerful global tech conglomerate known as the Guild steps in to defend the world. At the same time, a new JSOC unit called Spectre 1 under the command of Troy Marshall has been deployed to Avalon to invest this re-emerging danger. What begins as a tactical operation reveals something far more horrifying, a weapon that turns fear into a tool of war. Because of this, Spectre 1 experiences twisted memories, leaving them trapped in their own paranoia. Missions devolve into surreal dreamscapes where the line between reality and memory blurs, creating chaos and uncertainty. Where the ultimate battle isn't just about survival, it's about overcoming the enemy's control over fear and perception. Breaking down the main characters, let's start, of course, with the main playable character, which is David Mason, call sign Section. He is back, and this time he is team leader. David has always been a pillar of strength for his team, but he's also really struggling with these self-doubts and internal conflict, and it's this vulnerability and struggle to hold the team together that are really at the center of the narrative. Mike Harper from Black Ops 2 is returning, with his trademark toughness and humor, serving as both a teammate and a brother-like figure to David. They've been through a lot together, first forming this bond on SEAL Team 6, and now that they're getting pulled into this madness, Harper is really going to be a grounding force for David. Third character is Eric Samuels, the no-nonsense counterpart to Harper's strong personality, and after working with David and Harper to save the president in Black Ops 2, he gains this huge respect for David and decided that he could make a bigger impact if he left the Secret Service and joined David's JSOC team. And it's not much of a surprise anymore, but for reaching level 1000 in Black Ops 6, you unlocked Eric Samuels as a playable operator. The last member of the JSOC unit and a new character is Leilani Tupola, aka 5050. She's a decorated soldier from New Zealand with unmatched drive, who has opted for bionic augmentation after being diagnosed with a degenerative disease and emerged stronger and more badass than ever because of it. She's now equipped with a cybernetic arm and leg, and she has a lot to prove with this new team, but she brings a new kind of energy to the group. And apart from the Spectre 1 team, we also have Emma Kagan, who is the CEO of the Guild, who's positioned herself as humanity's last line of defense against this emerging threat. But oftentimes her philosophies about how to handle this are at odds with David Mason and his team, so it brings up questions about trust and control and the cost of survival. But for Treyarch in this campaign, the characters aren't just part of the narrative, they are the narrative, with every member of the team crafted with purpose, and they want players to have somebody that they could connect with and fight alongside. So So whether you're going in co-op or solo, you're going to get to play as one of the heroes, join the team, and get to experience the full breadth of what a character-driven story can be. There are some returning characters from Black Ops 6, and we got to see a cutscene between David Mason and a older Troy Marshall where they were stood at Frank Woods' grave. Very, very sad, I know. The cutscene started with David Mason standing at his grave and then leaving a sole single cigar on top of his gravestone, with Mason and Marshall talking about an emerging situation on a viral video that Menendez supposedly uploaded on the internet, with Mason saying that ink wasn't even dry on the debrief by the time this video dropped, and that it is cold arms from the grave, with his followers practically burning the world down. It turns out that killing the man is a hell of a lot easier than killing the idea, where sometimes one doesn't lead to the other, and there is some sort of new Menendez stirring the pot, with Mason saying that after all this time Menendez refuses to let him go, with Marshall saying maybe it's not Raul Menendez you're fighting anymore, stop looking backwards David, what matters is what you do next, with our four main characters then debriefing in a helicopter en route to Avalon. Treyarch say that mission variety is the heart of the Black Ops 7 experience, delivering some of the most unique and unexpected moments in the entire series, and as the story unfolds and the blurring of the line between reality, memory, and fear-induced hallucinations sets in, things get progressively stranger as you move through the story. There are 11 total campaign missions within the Black Ops 7 campaign, with locations such as Nicaragua, Angola, Tokyo, Alaska, with Alaska specifically being at David Mason's family house, the outskirts of Avalon, as well as the city of Avalon, but there were 3 redacted locations that we don't know of in this campaign. We got to watch around 10 to 15 minutes of one of the campaign missions, which saw our characters deployed to a secret site within Avalon where they were searching to try and find a supercomputer. The gameplay we saw was a co-op match, so we got to see several angles from different players, and a note to consider is that the general fiction is the characters are connected by a technology called sealing, which allows them to experience shared data in battle, but as a byproduct of the campaign story, shared hallucinations as well. The interior felt very similar to that of the final Black Ops 2 mission, where you're going through the different areas and buildings before eventually getting to Menendez, but once they made their way to the supercomputer, they got to download all the data onto a hard drive and try to leave whilst being attacked by a series of different robotic enemies created by the guild. But at one point, reality completely ceased to exist, with all of the characters falling backwards into a red ocean, with the characters seemingly endlessly falling under this pit of red liquid. And the next thing they know, they are no longer falling within a red ocean, but they are falling from the sky onto a piece of land. But the land was a floating island, where off in the distance were several other floating pieces of land which your players had to traverse with grappling hooks, and during this there was gigantic machetes that were falling towards them as they traversed their way upwards. As they continued to navigate this extremely strange hallucination which they were all having, you notice one floating island contains Raul Menendez's compound in Nicaragua, and due to that sealing technology, all 4 characters are able to see what's happening because they are sharing the same hallucination as David Mason. There was then around 5 minutes of straight gameplay of our characters just continuously climbing up these different floating islands that was very similar to the Infection map from BO3 multiplayer, but also kind of similar, I guess, in idea to Revelations, of just several floating islands that you had to traverse your way to. The players discovered a super jump ability which was found by traversing across huge floating rocks, and at the top of what looked like a rocky mountain we got to see enemies spawn, and the gameplay showed the people playing the co-op mission taking them out with snipers, and each time an enemy was taken out they would disappear into red smoke. We then got to see some gameplay of a double jump mechanic with a player using a shotgun as more machetes were flying down from the sky. The players were then jumping super high onto rooftops to take down new enemies before we transitioned to a new section with a floating boat that we as the players grappled towards. There were more floating rock areas that you had to jump across almost like a mini puzzle to get to the next area, and then there was just dozens of floating areas to progress upwards using a grapple hook, which brought us to a graveyard area, potentially a hallucination section of the graveyard that David Mason was at in the cutscene. We then got transitions into another new section which just showed a ton of areas of the campaign with lots of areas flashing very, very quick. The campaign honestly looked incredible from what we got to see at Treyarch gameplay wise. We were told that there is 11 linear campaign missions throughout the Black Ops 7 campaign. So none of the missions will be open combat mission style like MW3 or what we saw a tiny bit in BO6. These are all linear campaign missions from start to finish. However, there is something after the Black Ops 7 campaign which absolutely shocked us, and I'm sure it surprised you to hear about. And this is the fact that when you've completed the initial campaign, you will unlock a brand new co-op experience as the final mission known as Endgame. Treyarch's Kevin Drew then came to present this section, explaining that this mode is a culmination of years of learning from Outbreak and Modern Warfare Zombies and going into the co-op space with a lot of those things and ideas to create something very new and really important. This Endgame is a 32-player cooperative open world experience where the missions in Black Ops 7 have led up to this, training you to take all of that and combine it to enter a real challenge. We will have gone through parts of Avalon throughout the campaign that are critical to the story, but here the entirety of the Avalon map opens up. This is by no means a PvP experience or an extraction experience. This is a 32-player PvE experience. You'll be deploying into Avalon via wingsuit with the goal of reaching the objective within the hardest region. We were shown an overall map of Avalon that was divided into 4 different tier of difficulties, very similar to Modern Warfare Zombies and the 3 different regions within that map. I explained that initially you will only be capable of the lowest difficulty region, but everything you do in Endgame is going to be giving you XP to a unique power journey for your operator that you will only have in campaign. Whilst in the main campaign, you will only be playing as the 4 set characters, but in this, you can play as any operator and loadouts become unlocked for any weapon for you to use. And by this point, you will have also earned several abilities that you'll be able to experience in Endgame as part of your loadout. You'll be able to choose 2 different abilities. One of them is more about focusing on really changing the battlefield in a big way, and the other one is more of a moment-to-moment change. So you go in with all of that as your starting point, and once you're in, there's a world littered with activities and missions to complete as you try to progress your combat rating. And this is a critical new component in the mode where as you're leveling, every time you level up your combat rating, you're presented with a choice, and that could be a very powerful thing such as increasing your health, your mobility, your damage, but it's a lot of unique skills that you can choose and start to specialize by tracking them in unique skill tracks. Your combat rating will go from 0 and the highest rank will be 60, and you're going to need to get to the highest rank in order to get through all of the end game content. But the catch here is that you have to stay alive and escape the mode by climbing that ladder. But in a very similar way to DMZ, if you die, you lose all of your progress and you're back to square 0. Unlike DMZ and Modern Warfare Zombies, there isn't a invent system where you can take stuff in between matches. They explained it a lot like as if you were in a round-based zombies game where you have all the perks and 2 pack-a-punch guns, and you decide to leave the game successfully. The next time you load into this end game, you'll have your exact same loadout of weapons and perks like you did last time. They mentioned there's a lot more weight to what you do in endgame versus the rest of the campaign, where death matters and it's a big part of the experience. So moving on to the different abilities that you'll be able to use in this, which is entirely separate to the main campaign, is we got to see gameplay of a drone and a grapple hook deployed. One of the first abilities is a mega jump, which gives you massive verticality, which is awesome in this very open world environment. And the massive mega jump looked like you jumped about 5 times higher in the air than you normally would. It was like a low gravity jump. Kevin says if you combo that with a war machine, you can rain death from above, and it's really good. Another ability is a battle hook, which is a variation on the grapple hook, giving you more pinpoint accuracy to relocate yourself in battle. If you combine this with something like active camouflage, you can really reset your state of battle to be able to get to a really high point. Another ability they showed was a deployable shield, which is a great defensive thing in co-op. You can huddle everyone together in there and be immune to bullet fire, and it looked very similar to the bubble shield from a game like Halo. And the final one is deploying a little kit with several drones that come out and attack. It looks to be a very, very interesting co-op experience that Treyarch said they're going to be updating throughout the year, with this being endless sessions of 1 to 32 players, and you will not be at a disadvantage if you play play this mode solo or if you play this in co-op. It's going to be an open world experience with 31 other players roaming around the world with you, completing contracts and activities assumingly very similar to that of MWZ. That is absolutely everything for campaign, which I know was a hell of a lot to talk about because there is so much here in this campaign. Then Treyarch then moved on to talk about global progression in Black Ops 7 because, as mentioned previously, the campaign is now a connected mode with all the other modes where you'll be able to earn camos in campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone. They're also building off the foundations of Black Ops 6 with features they added post-launch like challenge tracking and near completion, and the camo hub will be there on day one. A huge thing coming to Black Ops 7, which everyone's been requesting since we saw it in Modern Warfare 3, and that is weekly challenges returning in Black Ops 7. Once Season 1 drops, week in and week out of the seasons, there is going to be new gameplay content, loadout content, and you can unlock by completing challenges in all modes, including co-op campaign. We got to see a look at the camos that were going to be available in the game, but they said they're not ready yet to pull back the curtain on the 16 mastery camos they're going to have in Black Ops 7. So that means there will be masteries in all 4 modes. We got to see the look at one multiplayer camo, which was the multiplayer gold camo called Shattered Gold, which honestly looked really good. It was gold, but it also was just like a cracked texture, almost like diamonds, but they were gold, which is really cool. But another fundamental change to global progression is that they now have a new weapon build system in the game, which is called weapon build sharing. So if you're playing a game with a friend, or like me, you're a content creator and you want to share your loadout without having to tell them the attachments, then you can finally just directly send them the loadout, and your friends will be a couple of clicks away from getting their loadout to be exactly the same as yours. And the way they're doing it is that they're going to be sharing builds via a build code. Now, they know that we love to share meta builds, share screenshots of the gunsmiths. Now we don't need to do that, as we have a specific build code in the gunsmith that you can share, and that will get your gun with the correct loadout. That is a big game changer, which should make the whole system a lot easier. And they also wanted to talk about prestige. So in Black Ops 6, they brought back classic prestige, bringing depth of progression and rewards and mastery to the player progression journey. To try out the next evolution of prestige was to do the same thing for weapons. So Black Ops 7 marks the return of weapon prestige, and they're really doing weapon prestige like they did for classic prestige in Black Ops 6, bringing it back bigger and better than ever. So the way weapon prestige works is you'll level up your gun like you normally do, reach max weapon level, and you have the choice to enter weapon prestige 1, which will unlock a camo. It will also unlock a prestige attachment, and every gun in the game will have a unique prestige attachment you can only unlock by prestiging that weapon. And Treyarch described these as build changing attachments that really change the way the weapons play. So when you prestige, they will lock all of the attachments back on the weapon except for the optic. So you're re-unlocking the attachments as you progress the gun, just like with classic prestige. And once you reach max weapon level, you have the choice to enter weapon prestige 2, unlock another camo that you can only unlock by prestiging that gun. Once you've completed 2 laps of weapon prestige, you graduate into weapon prestige master with 250 levels to climb through and a hot camo at the end of the journey, which you can only unlock by getting that gun to 250. On the topic of guns, that of course comes into multiplayer. So let's finally dive into Black Ops 7 multiplayer. Firstly, let's talk about the full multiplayer map list. So on launch, there are 16 6v6 maps and 2 maps built for the brand new skirmish mode, which is a 20 versus 20 mode, with the full map selection being the following: The Forge, Toshiba, Exposure, Cortex, Scar, Den, Homestead, Colossus, Imprint, Dry Dock, Retrieval, Paranoia, Express, Raid, Hijacked, Black Heart, Mission Edge, and Mission Tide. Now, you will have definitely recognized some of the map names there, with Express, Raid, and Hijacked being signature favorites from Black Ops 2. These maps looked great from what we got to see from the bird's eye preview, but all of the Black Ops 2 maps will be set in Tokyo, and so we'll have slightly different themes to what we saw originally, such as Express having a bullet train instead of a normal subway train, as well as Japanese artwork and Japanese billboards everywhere. Raid having a Japanese bonsai tree in the middle of the the map, and hijacked still being set on a boat, but rather out in the middle of nowhere. It's on a boat that is close to a dock. Treyarch highlighted the maps Forge, Blackheart, and Edge as those were the maps that we got to play when we got to play the multiplayer. Forge is described as more of a medium style, highly competitive map. Blackheart is one of the faster, smaller, frenetic maps that really shows off the wall jumping, and then Edge takes place in the heart of the city of Avalon. That map is played within the bigger 20v20 skirmish mode. This mode pits you into 4-player squads in teams of 20 versus 20 on a pretty big map with a variety of objectives such as to capture, destroy, escort, and there's a high energy pace of play where you actually deploy via wingsuit. You also have a Battlefield-esque choice on how you deploy, where you can be mid-air deploying in a wingsuit and grapple, or you can spawn within a vehicle such as a ground vehicle or a helicopter for traversing and combat. Now we've got the maps and modes out the way, let's now dive into some of the multiplayer gameplay systems. The first pillar is the next level Omnimovement. They're building off the success of Omnimovement in Black Ops 6 with a few new mechanics, with the first one being wall jump, which is available across the entire game. So campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone. And this is apparently going to be used for both traversal opportunities and to engage your opponents, and they like to use it coming around the corner in multiplayer. And all of the multiplayer maps in BO7 are purpose built for these new mechanics. Another new mechanic is combat roll, which you won't be able to do in core multiplayer, and it's really meant for an extreme height where you're going to take a lot of full damage and potentially die. If you initiate this combat roll, instead of dying to full damage, your character will just roll a bit like a parkour roll to take all that damage mitigation. They're also bringing back the ability to move whilst mounted, and to them it made sense in a Omnimovement world to be able to do that. And if you're not familiar with what that is, when you mount your gun, you can strafe along that edge. Here's where things get really exciting, because we now have some gameplay updates which are both MP specific, and some of them are globally throughout the game. So Treyarch started first off by dropping a bombshell on us where there is no tactical sprint by default. They know that it's been a hot topic over the years, and when they say by default, and they know that it's been a hot topic over the years, but when they say by default, there is a way for players who want attack sprint will be able to take a perk to enable that. That really is the philosophy that they've taken with multiplayer this year, where they're being a bit more intentionally focused on combat. That involves some new perks and returning perks for faster movement, quicker recovery time, and bringing back the ability to fire while sprinting. And they also have some faster reload perks. And in the past games, they've kind of pushed all of the faster reloads to just magazines, but now they're going to let you double dip there. Or again, they're being a bit more intentional on the combat pacing, where you won't be able to ADS by default while sliding, diving, or wall jumping, but there is a perk for that. 3 big pillar overviews of multiplayer is that they want this to be a future power fantasy with 2035 guns, gear and gadgets in a connected battlefield, with the experience mattering, where mastery and experience improves and alters your gameplay. A huge thing is that Black Ops 2 is a huge source of inspiration for Treyarch on this game. One of the pillars on the overview was Black Ops 2 Evolved, and they mentioned that there is a ton of new content in the game. It's not just Black Ops 2 content, but there are some returning maps as well as some returning weapons from Black Ops 2 that we'll get into in a moment. There's been quite a few updates to the loadout system in multiplayer this year, with one new addition called Overclocks, which, just like a weapon, is getting kills, getting attachments, but think about applying that throughout your equipment, your lethals, your tacticals, your score streaks, and your field upgrades. So when you use them, you're now unlocking ways to modify that piece of content, and with everything they do, they want to make sure that when they add that layer of depth, they're not adding complexity. So main aim is to earn gameplay improvements and altered functionality of all your equipment the more you use it. An example shown was using a active camo field upgrade as an overclock example, where when activating the camo, they're getting kills with it and they unlock their first overclock. But when they unlock their second overclock, they have a decision to make where they have 2 pieces of content they can modify the active camo with. Do they want increased charge speed so they can earn it more often, or do they want to recloak after firing? That's just one example that goes across all categories in the game, such as lethals, tacticals, field upgrades, score streaks, each having 2 overclocks. Touching on the multiplayer perks, in Black Ops 6, they introduced combat specialities. And if you're not familiar with that, it was a concept of every perk being assigned a playstyle, a core playstyle, which was one of 3. If you spec that up, you got the Enforcer combat speciality. Treyarch realized over time that not all players fit into these 3 core playstyles, and it's something that they got feedback on, with the feedback given that they want to mix and match and still be given a bonus. So with that feedback, they've introduced 3 new hybrid combat specialities. So that's a concept of taking 2 of one color or one playstyle and then 1 of another, which you can then combine together, which won't be as robust as a full combat speciality, but it's still a nice little bonus. Moving on to perks, now we're in the year 2035, everything is networked, and so they have a few perks that are networked, will essentially give you perk buffs that will be shared with your nearby teammates. So jumping into some of the brand new multiplayer perks we were shown, one was called Looper, and this is another hot topic in the community where by default, Treyarch are not going to have looping score streaks. The philosophy is they want to give players the opportunity to spec into those playstyles if they want via the perk system, and so looping score streaks is one of those. Tactical Sprint is also another one, but by default, Tactical Sprint is not in the game, but if you want to enable it, then you'll equip the Agility perk, which is essentially lightweight with increased movement speed and recovery time. And then there is also Gung Ho, which is enabling you to fire while sprinting, which mentioned earlier is not a thing that you can do by default. And when talking earlier about combat specialities, you still have the combat specialities, but if you want to create a hybrid version with 2 matching perks and then 1 that's slightly different, there are 3 new hybrid combat specialities. First one is called Overwatch, which is a support slayer. So if you get an assist by throwing an EMP or a counter UAV, your bullet kills will actually give you increased bonus score. A second one is Stealth Slayer for Scout, and so after you get bullet kills, you'll be hidden from the minimap and the compass. Then the final one is a Stealth Support Captain. So if you're getting stealth kills by using a suppressor or getting kills from behind or someone outside of the enemy's line of sight, then you'll earn field upgrade charge. And for the first time ever in Black Ops, they are finally adding the specialist bonus in the way of a wild card. So just like the specialist bonus from Modern Warfare games, you'll be able to equip this, and when you do, you will forego choosing score streaks, allowing you to pick 3 additional perks, and you will earn those perks at 2, 4, and 600 score. And at that point, you'll have all 6 of the available perks that you selected. And if you manage to get to 1200 score in a game, you'll have all the perks in the game. So at that point, you'll be tac sprinting, you'll be firing while sprinting, you'll be moving fast, you'll feel like a super soldier. So with all of that out the way, the most important part of multiplayer is of course the weapons, where we got a ton of confirmed weapons shown to us. The first was the return of the Peacekeeper from Black Ops 2, now known as the Peacekeeper Mark 1. We also have the return of the M8A1 from the original Black Ops 2. There is also the Orion pistol, which looks very similar to the Cap 40 from Black Ops 2. We have the VS Recon Sniper, which is inspired by the DSR 50. We have the Echo 12 shotgun, which is a brand new shotgun with an underbarrel with a rotating magazine. We have the Eagle assault rifle, which is inspired by the Rampart from Black Ops 4. We have the Puma SMG, which is inspired by the PDW from Black Ops 2. We have the MK78 LMG, the Pulse launcher, which is an energy-based charged launcher, and then we also have a shock baton melee weapon. In total, for the launch weapon lineup, there are 6 ARs, which 3 of them are brand new to the franchise, 3 marksmen, 6 SMGs, 2 snipers, and then I couldn't catch how many LMGs there were because the slide went too quick. In terms of score streaks, we have some really awesome ones. We have the dog or the robot that goes around the map killing anyone, but you can also choose a location for it to stay and patrol, taking out anyone that goes in their way. The RCXD is of course returning, and in Black Ops 6 we were hunted and on the run, so you had to run to Radio Shack and put some little explosives on the toy car. But now we're in the future, we've got the good grace of the military, so they've been able to beef it up to make it as expensive looking as possible. There is a brand new streak called the Gravemaker, which is near future territory tech, which allows you to see enemies through walls. Now, I'm sure this was inspired by that one target site from Black Ops 2 where you could see people through walls. They showed us a gameplay clip to show that they were staring at a player that then when moved through the wall, they could actually see them through the wall. But Treyarch said that they've hopefully balanced this well enough where if you are being targeted by it, you have more than enough time to combat it by running away, running in a different direction, because it seemed like you needed to be looked at for quite a few seconds before it was able to track you through walls. We also have the return of the Hellstorm, which is now called the Skewer. There is a really awesome streak called the Rhino, which is a huge robot that drops from the sky that you can control with a shooting turret, and it also has legs, a little bit like that one DLC map from BO3 where you could play as a robot. Hunter Killer Drone is back, called the HKD, where Hunter Killer drones that actually drop from capsules and parachutes will pop out and seek and destroy enemies. There is also the VTOL warship, and they said that this is now bigger and better than the Black Ops 2 counterpart. There is also UAV, counter UAV, an air patrol, which is called Interceptors. They finally showed off a screen that displayed every single score streak they have, whether it's brand new or kind of the staples that you come to expect, but everything is going to get that Black Ops 7 2035 lick of paint. Treyarch really emphasized that there was immersive score streaks and gear within the game, with Black Ops 3 noted as their favorite game for score streaks and a return to that style of quality. They also made a real big emphasis on the HUD in the game. They have really overhauled everything from an experimental standpoint, really rip off the chains and go crazy with the 2035 look and feel. They've really spent a lot of time driving high impact visuals both in game and in the front end. They want all your content to shine, and so getting into it all revolves around what I spoke about in the campaign segment, which is C-Link, and this is your mini map, it's your ammo widget, and it's also how you see players in the world. When shown to us in the multiplayer HUD, it really was pushing a augmented reality AR vibe where the HUD was curved, kind of breaking that 2D plane that's been in Call of Duty for quite some time, and they're really trying to pull back on the heavyweight visuals and give you a lighter, kind of more clean gameplay experience. They were really keen to emphasize that they really have just overhauled the entire front end, so that entirely new loadout menus, the operator selection in the lobby, that includes just making the whole game look a lot more slicker and a lot more matching in tone to Black Ops 6, as one of the takeaways from Black Ops 6 was that there wasn't the consistency there. And so when it comes to the winner's circle experience, that has also been entirely overhauled. With multiplayer out the way, let's now finally move over to zombies and dive into everything we got to see and learn. Jumping straight into things, we know that at the end of the Black Ops 6 Zombies map Reckoning, we got swept into the Dark Ether with our Black Ops 6 crew. What it means for Treyarch and the locations that we can go this year is that we're apparently going to go to some of the coolest locations we've ever been to in Zombies. Experience things we have never experienced before. One of the three big talking points for Zombies today is the new version of the original crew. In the Reckoning ending, it was revealed we are now face to face with a new version of our iconic crew from the foundation of Zombies itself. Treyarch want to make explicitly clear that this is a third iteration of these characters. Now, the versions we're seeing of Richtofen, Takio, Nikolai, and Dempsey is a third iteration of this crew. Everything that happened before with these characters still happened, and everything is still completely canon. Their stories have been told, but we are now in the Dark Ether timeline, and this is the Dark Ether original crew. And on purpose, Treyarch is not actually going to tell us much about them to start with, but they do mention that we know a lot about the Black Ops 6 crew at this point, and they are going to act as their window and a connection point to learn more about this iteration of these characters. Questions like why are they important and why are they in here with us is a question that's going to be answered throughout the year. And whilst details are scarce, we do have one screenshot that shows our 4 new characters where we get new details. The most intriguing detail is the fact that Richtofen is wearing a Group 935 patch on his left arm, which up until this point, Group 935 has not been referenced whatsoever in the Dark Ether story. Another detail to point out on Richtofen's jacket is this medal right here, which is the Iron Cross. If it wasn't already obvious based on his cap and outfit, it seems this version of Richtofen is part of the German military. This medal was usually awarded for bravery and service in combat, regardless of your rank. Higher grades of the cross, like the Knight's Cross and Grand Cross, were awarded for exceptional acts of bravery and leadership. There is clearly a rich backstory to this version of Richtofen and his involvement in the German army, directly tied to World World War II, but we're just going to have to see exactly how. We also get new details here on Tank Dempsey, where we can see he has a really cool arm sleeve tattoo on his left and right arms, which he previously didn't have. You can see a much clearer look at the emblem on Takio's chest, which seems to resemble some sort of dragon. Nikolai just looks a lot like Primus Nikolai here, but all four of them have a very strange eye color, which doesn't seem to be natural. You can also see in their faces that they are quite veiny, like there's a lot of purple veins which seem visible, which could be due to their excessive amount of time in the Dark Ether. We'll just have to wait and see. What is really cool is there is now 8 dedicated zombies operators, so 2 crews playable, meaning you can play as any combination of these characters, being the 4 original Dark Ether characters, the 4 Black Ops 6 characters, or a combination of both. All characters will interact with each other, have completely unique interaction lines, and they're going to go through this story together. In a very similar way to Black Ops 4's Alpha Omega map, where there were 8 playable characters between 4 Primus and 4 Ultimus. The next big talking point is on the zombies map itself. Black Ops 7 is going to launch with one zombies map, but it is the biggest round-based map ever. For Treyarch, it's not just about size of map that is important, but it's the intent on what you do with that space. And with Black Ops 7 as a whole, they've expressed that it's very much a sequel to Black Ops 2. It doesn't quite work that way for zombies for the Dark Ether storyline, but they absolutely looked at transit from Black Ops 2 as an inspiration and an opportunity to take that experience and make a lot of cool things to take it to the next level. So it is heavily transit inspired, but it isn't actually the transit map remastered. It in fact sounds like a map like Revelations, but is then placed into a transit-esque style layout. And to Treyarch, they can't think of a better map that really expresses the Dark Ether and the experiences we're going to be having this year than with this map. And they describe it as essentially a Bermuda Triangle, featuring unique locations out of various locations and time periods, each area having its own unique story, essentially meaning that every area of the map has been plucked from a different time period and is a completely unique location between each area. We were all presented this, and there was actually a map screen that showed the overall layout, and whilst I can't remember it picture accurate, here is an image on screen that depicts, to the best of my ability, what the overall map looked like. Map in total had 6 unique locations, and the only location that was explicitly shown to us was an area called Farm. From the one screenshot we've been given that shows the characters stood in the farm area, we can see that this is very heavily inspired by the farm from Transit. You have the left building, which looks very similar to the original. Then you have that middle house where you would find the mystery box location upstairs on the balcony. You can also see that the sky is, of course, that purple ethereal dark ether that will be present throughout the entire map. An overview of the map seems that we'll be starting in Area 1, which is on the far right of the map. Then Areas 2 and 3 were above and below each other, which both connected to Area 4, which is the main middle part of the map. Then we had Area 5 up to the top left and Area 6 to the bottom left. Whilst Farm was the only one visible to us, it seemed likely that one of the other areas was Diner. In another slide talking about progression in Black Ops 7, we could see a Diner themed calling card spotted, adding more credence to the fact that Diner is likely to be one of the other areas on this map. On top of just the 6 areas, there's also transition spaces, the roads in between each area, and those are going to have fog. But what's interesting about these is that they're going to be living outside the rules of round base. So when you're in these places, they're very deadly, and there's a pressure there where you don't want to be there for very long, and you're absolutely going to want to go through here because there's going to be secrets to discover along these roads, but they're not a place that you want to be for a very long time. Each road also is full of personality, with each path different and showcases different elements and time periods as well. With this all being transit inspired, you of course would think of the bus, but the bus is not returning because instead we will be driving a vehicle known as a Wander vehicle. We got to see one screenshot of this, and it is not a bus by any means. It seems to be more like a big 4x4, but was very heavily Mad Max themed. Bonnet featured 3 abomination heads. It also had a mountable turret on the top of the roof, which was a Wonderwaffe DG2. Treyarch described that you're going to need the Wander vehicle to navigate and get through this giant launch map. What really excited the Zombies team is bringing back the idea of needing to stick together as a team a bit more, and they think Transit did a great job of that. Where you have the bus, you all needed to make the decision initially on the map to go together on the bus in order to survive, and they want to bring more weight to that matter on the decision when you're playing through this map. So especially early on, you'll be able to unlock different ways to move around the map, but it's really important to use that vehicle, decide where you're going as a team, and move to the next destination. Because this map is so big, just like Transit, Treyarch are also bringing another returning thing from Black Ops 2, which is the concept of survival maps. The idea here to take smaller locations from the launch map and make them standalone maps. Treyarch recognized that one of the most successful parts of Black Ops 6 was Liberty Falls, with how accessible it is, where you have everything you need to survive, and that was really an inspiration for them to bring back survival maps, and thought it was a nice complement to this very large, vast map. And what's cool is that they're able to take the features available in the standard maps that maybe take quite a while to access to, so you're easily able to play those areas in case you don't have the skill or time to get to those places. In these survival maps, everything you need to get to high rounds is already there from the get-go, with no main quest enabled. It is solely about surviving, and they're going to be releasing survival maps through the seasons as well. To clear up any confusion on the launch of Black Ops 7 Zombies, we're going to have the main launch round-based map as well as the farm survival map. As the seasons go on, more survival maps from the launch map will be added to the game, and it's assumed that further DLC maps will also have their own survival maps as well. When it comes to carry forward for Black Ops 7 Zombies, it's confirmed that Gobblegums will carry over through to Black Ops 7 on day one. So all of the current Gobblegums we have in the game will be available on day one. It sounds like all of the Black Ops 6 weapons will also be carrying forward, but that will be post-launch during Season 1. Another massive thing that Treyarch have confirmed for Black Ops 7 Zombies is that every Zombies map will be getting a fully CGI intro cutscene. I understand that people were very disappointed that Black Ops 6 didn't have a full year of CGI cutscenes like it should, but they said that yes, they 100% are going to have CGI cutscenes for the game, and that they will be expanding upon the mid and end game cutscenes that they offered in Black Ops 6. At Treyarch, we got to have a Q&A based on the presentation that we saw. Whilst Treyarch are keeping very tight-lipped on zombies beyond what we spoke about today, we did manage to get a few zombies questions out of them, one being the fundamental differences in gameplay between Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 Zombies, and they said that there is some significant under-the-hood changes that they've made to Black Ops 7 Zombies, but they just can't talk about it right now. And they emphasized that in early September, there is going to be a massive marketing window for zombies. We're going to be getting a ton of teasers and marketing that's going to give us a ton of build up and more context and knowledge on zombies itself, including the name of the launch map, any potential new perks, new gobblegums, big fundamental changes to zombies. But at least from what we got to see of the very few seconds of atmospheric gameplay showing off X-level GPU particles and vector fields, we're really able to play with the fog that we'll interact with. And they said they've leveled up with the volumetric fog, adding another layer of movement, ambient movement with light layers of noise, giving it gritty atmosphere and claustrophobic feeling to get you really immersed in the environment. They also wanted fluid simulation with the fog. They wanted to feel like you were interacting with it, and not only you, the players, but also the zombies interacting, the gameplay, the explosions, and they're just going to keep pushing and pushing. Get all of those details to look as good as physically possible. With zombies out the way, the final chapter in this video will be going over a ton of additional details that Treyarch revealed during the Q&A session. With regards to post-launch content and carry forward, Treyarch confirmed that carry forward will be going live for Black Ops 7 in Season 1, with a wide variety of content carrying forward. Day one, your XP tokens and Gobblegum will arrive day one, with a lot of the other content carrying forward post-launch in Season 1. They've taken a lot of the feedback on board on Black Ops 6 and its multiplayer map offering, and along with the 16 launch maps, they are also dropping a lot of maps post-season, with Season 1 being an absolutely huge launch, where they've taken all the feedback into account. Treyarch has also heard the feedback loud and clear on rewards, so more camos, more rewards, better rewards, more ways to earn things like attachments, weekly challenges are back, and even when it comes to campaign, you have a whole new track of mastery camo, so there is a lot of stuff to grind for in this game. Very interesting mention was on the topic of community conversation, sentiment reporting, and breaking down feedback with the developers when it comes to the conversation on operators and skins. They have heard the feedback loud and clear when it comes to the insane cosmetics that's been throughout BO6 this year. When it comes to cosmetics, they want to support a variety of interests and tastes. They have a very broad set of players in the game, specifically across all different game modes. However, they want to do right by the COD players, and so this is feedback that they are considering going forward. Through everything spoken about today with regards to campaign, multiplayer, and zombies, they are really excited to talk about Warzone, but they aren't talking about that today. Today is solely focused on Black Ops 7, but they are happy to confirm that Warzone is coming, and it will be revealed at Call of Duty Next live on September 30th, which is going to be the place to get more information about multiplayer, about zombies, and about Warzone. But that is absolutely everything that I learned from Treyarch ahead of the Black Ops 7 reveal. So much information to digest in this. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and found it useful, and if you're still here at the end, then I really appreciate you.